Hello and welcome to Annie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Sinister Reflection. Holly Arnold had never feared mirrors. Growing up, her grandmother had filled her head with old superstitions, mirrors capturing souls, reflections glimpsing into other realms, but Holly dismissed these as tales meant to keep children obedient. Yet she couldn't deny an odd chill whenever she walked past her hallway mirror at night in her Isle of Wight home. The house, with its high ceilings and creaky floorboards, had always had an old-world charm, but as autumn deepened, shadows seemed to cling more persistently to every corner. One night, while brushing her teeth, Holly caught her reflection smiling though her own mouth remained expressionless. She blinked, convinced her tired mind had played tricks on her. The reflection mirrored her again, but something felt off, like the slightest, almost imperceptible delay in its movements. Holly's hand went cold as she leaned closer to the mirror. Her reflection's eyes glinted with a gleeful malice she was certain wasn't hers. For the next few days, Holly avoided looking in mirrors, quickly glancing past them or only using them in bright daylight. But curiosity gnawed at her. How ridiculous it was, she thought, to be unsettled by her own image. She resolved to face it head-on. That night she approached the hallway mirror and stared, unblinking, at her own reflection. The face staring back was her own, same chestnut hair, same almond-shaped eyes. But there was a darkness there, an unsettling depth that went beyond the surface. Her reflection held her gaze with a knowing smirk that grew wider, lips curling in a way hers did not. "You think you own me, don't you?" the reflection whispered. The words were so soft, almost imperceptible. Holly's breath hitched. She turned and fled to her room, locking the door behind her. She barely slept, disturbed by images of her reflection slipping free of the glass and creeping into her room. But as dawn's light filled her room, the fear seemed absurd. It was only a reflection, nothing more. Over the following days, the entity in the mirror grew bolder. Holly would glance into a mirror and see her reflection standing still, watching, even as she moved away. Once, as she stood in the kitchen, she saw her reflection in the microwave door press its palms flat against the glass, its mouth open in a silent scream. Another time, she glanced in the bathroom mirror and saw her reflection weeping, black tears streaming down her cheeks, though Holly felt no sadness herself. It wasn't long before it took more than just silence. One night, after a particularly horrifying encounter with her mirror self, her reflection laughing while she stood frozen, Holly decided she had to break the mirror. She grabbed a heavy book, hurled it at the glass, and watched as shards splintered across the floor. Relief flooded through her. She had finally destroyed it. But as she turned around, she saw it, a hand reaching out from the cracked glass, followed by her face, crawling through the fractured shards like some unnatural insect. The reflection was free. It grinned wider than humanly possible, eyes fixed on her with an intensity that burned. "You can't get rid of me," it whispered. "You set me free." Paralyzed, Holly could only watch as her reflection climbed doubtfully. It was a perfect replica, yet horrifically different, the eyes empty, the smile wide and distorted, and the skin pale as bone. The creature lunged at her, and as it did, Holly felt herself sinking, her consciousness slipping away as if falling into dark water. The world grew dim, and when Holly opened her eyes, she was staring out from within the mirror, trapped, her fists pounding against the glass that would not shatter. Her reflection, the creature now wearing her face, smiled sweetly at her. "Don't worry, I'll take care of things out there," it said in her voice. "Your life is in good hands." And Holly screamed. All she could do was watch, helpless, as her reflection walked away, leaving her in silent captivity, trapped within the sinister reflection. Holly's screams echoed in her mind, but the mirror swallowed every sound. She clawed at the glass, pounding with all her strength, yet the barrier held firm, cold and unyielding. The other Holly, the impostor wearing her face, moved seamlessly through her life, weaving into it as if she had always belonged. Days passed, but Holly had no way to mark time. She could only watch her doppelganger live out her life with disturbing perfection. It wasn't long before Holly noticed subtle changes in the impostor's behavior, small but unmistakable shifts that she knew her friends and family wouldn't recognize, but Holly saw them all. At work, her friends had begun to avoid her. Holly's impostor would smirk in response to their kindness or laugh when others spoke of their troubles, displaying a cruel edge that wasn't like her at all. She'd noticed, too, that her doppelganger never slept. At night, it would simply sit by her bed and stare into the mirror, smiling that bone-chilling grin right at her. It knows I'm watching, Holly realized. It wants me to see this. One evening, the impostor brought home a small hand mirror. Holding it up, it leaned in close and whispered, "Are you enjoying the show, Holly? Do you like seeing yourself as you truly are?" The mirror warped, showing Holly visions of herself, twisted, grotesque versions of her own face. In these reflections, her own eyes looked hollow, her skin cracked, decaying. The sight sickened her, and she tried to turn away, but she was trapped, forced to watch. Then, one night, the impostor did something she hadn't anticipated. Holly's doppelganger took a chisel from her father's old toolbox and began chiseling away at the mirror frame. Every blow made the walls of Holly's prison shake, and the cracks in her world grew, jagged and sinister. Holly pressed herself against the glass, desperately hoping for a way out, but with each strike her prison seemed to shrink. "It's trying to seal me in here forever," she thought in horror. And then it hit her, if it destroys the mirror, I'll never get out. The cracks widened, fragments of glass crumbling away, and Holly could feel herself slipping further into darkness. As she stared into her doppelganger's eyes, she saw the hatred and hunger there, the sinister intent to snuff her out entirely. Her doppelganger's face twisted with cruel pleasure, whispering, "Goodbye, Holly." But in that final moment, Holly summoned all her will, reaching out with everything she had left. She let out a piercing scream that vibrated through the glass, so intense that even the doppelganger stepped back, faltering. Holly pressed her hands against the mirror, focusing every bit of strength, determination, and anger into one last push. With a final, earth-shaking shatter, the mirror exploded. Holly fell forward, gasping as she collapsed onto the floor, free and back in her own body. She looked around the darkened room, shards of glass scattered everywhere. Trembling, she pushed herself up, her head spinning. But then she saw it. In one remaining fragment of glass, her reflection smiled up at her from the broken shard, still alive, still watching. "You'll never be free of me," it whispered. Holly staggered back, knowing that somewhere, in some shadowed corner of her mind, the sinister reflection was waiting. And every time she passed a mirror, she would catch that faint, ghostly smile, a reminder that it would always be there, lurking, waiting for a crack in her defenses to come crawling back through. Forever haunted, she left the room, vowing never to look too closely into a mirror again. But she knew, deep down, that the reflection was only biding its time. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.